it's very challenging to live with whatever we carry.
Centerstone is a one-of-a-kind place.
And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. There's nothing holding me back anymore.
And Hannah Jones with Centerstone. It runs the Centerstone Recovery Transitional Housing Program. As you guys know, we've started our conversations with Centerstone because this is a very important topic and information that's good to know before a situation gets rough, because we all know of individuals that are struggling. And Hannah's going to join us now by Zoom. Hannah, how are we doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. And I really appreciate your time today. You do run the program. And if you could, give us a brief overview before we get started on what the program is all about.
Okay. So our typical kind of clientele are those that are coming out of like a 28-day program and maybe just need some additional kind of sober living support. They maybe just don't have the best area to return to, or they were homeless before. We just want to make sure that they are set up for success in their continued recovery.
And what?
So,
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Don't let me cut you off.
No, I was just going to say it's typically a 3 to 6 month program. And we kind of work with them on getting back out into the community. So like getting a job, getting an ID, again, getting their birth certificate, anything that they're going to need to be a successful member of the community again.
Well, and Hannah, that is such a crucial step, because I can only imagine how many people, they complete that 28-day program, they go and put all that hard work in, and now it's what's next. And that's where I'm sure your services are so valuable, because I'm sure for a lot of folks, and you'd have better understanding than I would about this, that they just don't know where to start.
Absolutely. It can be very overwhelming for somebody that is not, they're sober and they don't know necessarily what next or how to proceed with getting a job again, or, how to make a resume or anything like that. So the case management services we provide are crucial for them to be able to maintain that sobriety and continue to learn those new skills.
And what's the relationship look like with yourself and one of the individuals in the program? I'm sure it's a pretty hands-on hands-on situation where you're working directly with each other. Is that the case?
Absolutely. I do have a small team of recovery specialists that kind of help with, all the case management type services. And then we have a therapist at Extended Care as well, that we're all just a really tight-knit little team over here. So it doesn't matter what needs to get done. We all pitch in to make sure it happens.
Well, and take me through it, Hannah, because, I find this such a crucial step in really getting back out there and really hitting and getting on the road to recovery and really hitting that final stride. What are some of the hurdles that an individual would have to overcome? I know you've mentioned resumes and just getting that kind of life balance in check, but I could only imagine, too, you're still coming off of your 28-day program that you were a part of, and now you still have to, keep up with some of the exercises, some of the work that's already been put in, plus start working again. Is there a little bit of a difficulty in finding that balance for some?
Oh, absolutely. People struggle in different areas, so it's all about meeting the client at where they are. Some of them really struggle with time management skills. Some of them have struggled with just like independent living skills. Like some of them don't know how to cook anything, don't know how to do laundry. So it's kind of, we step in, we teach them those skills and kind of keep them moving forward so that they can live independently at some point in the future. No, go ahead.
Well, the reason I'm asking too, Hannah, is because, with that, I can only imagine this isn't a one age demographic that you guys encounter on the day-to-day basis. Do you encounter a lot of different age ranges that utilize the program?
Absolutely. The spread that I have right now is a pretty good spread,
Is
right?
it?
My youngest is 22 and then my oldest is, 64. So
Wow.
We have a pretty wide range of people that we serve. So a lot of different personalities, a lot of different just needs in general.
Well, and how do you act on those personalities? Because I'm sure, the way that you interact with your 22-year-old's a lot different than the way that you would interact with the 64-year-old. Is that where your guys' training really comes in to understanding, where those folks are at?
Definitely. Because like you said, the 22-year-old, he's a lot more advanced with like technology and things like that, where the 64-year-old, you kind of have to hold his hand a little bit and say like, all right, now click this button. That takes you to Google, you know? So some things are a little bit challenging, but every single age range has its own challenges for sure.
Well, and take me through that relationship too, because just that alone, explaining how Google works and all of that. I can only imagine there is a little bit of some. I wouldn't want to say humor to it, but a little bit of some jovialness to it because you're learning a new skill. You're doing everything right. You've already completed 28 days. And now we're really hitting our stride and we're learning new things together. Is it a little bit of enjoyment for the individual as they're kind of learning some of this stuff to benefit, or is there some frustration that comes in with learning all of this at once?
I would say it's a good mix of both. They do get kind of easily frustrated when things don't go exactly how they've planned. But then definitely there are a lot of times that we're celebrating little everyday successes of, hey, I applied for a job all on my own and I got an interview, and they're just so proud of that. And I think it's awesome to be able to stand beside them while they do celebrate those successes.
100.
I think it's things that we take for granted a lot in our everyday lives.
100% over. And take me through the program itself. We were talking a little bit before, and this was the first time, Hannah, in a while I didn't have notes because we had a little bit of a transition in how we normally do our segments. But take me through the program. So it's 3 to 6 months. And now, is this an inpatient or an outpatient type of program?
It's kind of considered a little bit of both.
Okay.
They do live with us, but they are able to go out into the community on like either passes or, as they go out into work, into the field again. So they do have the freedom to move around a little bit, but then they do have a safe environment to return to in the evening when they're done with work or whatever the pass was for.
That's really, really cool. And now, how many beds do you have in your facility?
I currently have 16.
And are they all full?
They are currently. So very proud of that right now.
Well, and take me through, is there ever a time where is it a constant door of always keeping those 16 beds full? Because I can only imagine there's so many folks that really do need this type of service, because I always felt like, it's great to get to that 28 days and I'm proud of you and you worked hard. But now to have this where we're setting you up for success in life, you did the hard work. Now it's time to get us back moving again. And I could only imagine it's just 16, 16, 16 full. Is that the case?
Unfortunately, not always. There are some times that we've had some open beds, and, it's like anything in recovery. It's not a fun topic, but relapse happens. So, you're always going to have some people that fall off and, relapse, have some issues maintaining that sobriety. You'll have some people that are like, I don't want to follow your rules. So they've decided that the program's just not for them anymore. So, unfortunately, we have had some times where we've had a lot of open beds, but we generally are able to fill them pretty quickly because people are looking for some sort of additional support.
Well, and too, in those conversations, I'm sure they're very frustrating to have because, I can see both sides of that coin, in the sense of, who likes being given rules, in all fairness, but also on your end of things, you have to, you can't force, but you still have to be honest. And I'm sure that gets pretty difficult. Is that the case sometimes when you're having those conversations with the individuals that are in the program?
For sure. Yeah. It's frustrating because I'm not enforcing these rules just to be like you're going to do exactly what I say, how I say it. I'm doing it because I genuinely care about these people and I want them to do well. And rules and structure and routine are the basic building blocks of sobriety. So if we can't maintain those things, our sobriety is going to go right out the window too.
100% over. And Hannah, just by talking with you and then, talking with a few of the others that I've had the opportunity to speak with at Centerstone, it seems like the relationship that you have with those individuals in the program is more of, even though you're still taking care of them, you're still working in that setting. It seems like there's a lot, I hate to say the word family atmosphere, but it is because you really do get to know that person and you really get to see their characteristics, their character traits and what gets them going. And I think that's why what you guys do is so invaluable because you make that individual feel like a real person again.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is if you're really trying to make an impact in this person's life, You're going to learn about who their kids are, if they have a partner. You're going to learn about mom and dad and everybody that's important to them, and, their hobbies, their dislikes, their likes, and even just simple things of like a tradition that I have at extended care, CRTH, is every single person that has a birthday, I make them a birthday cake.
That is
because I
so
feel like
cool.
we have to have those little moments of like, we're celebrating you and we're thankful that you're still here for another year.
And, not to go into a whole different sector of this conversation, but, I can only imagine for a lot of these folks, maybe not, but just from my, interpretation, just sitting on the other side of the screen here, Hannah, is that, for the first time in a while, they were acknowledged, and that's kind of my takeaway on it. I could only imagine that there's some folks that you've celebrated birthdays for that hadn't had a true birthday celebration in years.
Yeah, we just celebrated a birthday with one of our newer residents that I made him a birthday cake, and he's like, I haven't had a birthday cake since I was 12, and he just turned 47.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I mean, it's been a really long time for him, but it was really sweet. He was very, very grateful for just even that small act of kindness.
Do you think that those type of situations, whether it's a birthday, a holiday, do you think that's what, one of those X factors in this program and the road to really, hitting your stride, getting back out there, that transition? Do you think that's a good driving force for folks to keep moving, that just the mental boost that comes with that?
100%. I'm a huge believer in that. If not every day may be good, but there's something good in every day. And if we can find those things and we can celebrate them and we can focus on that, then we can get through any kind of bad situation that might be thrown our way.
That has to be one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard on this show. And I've done radio for 6 years. You're absolutely right. Not every day is going to be a good day, but there's always good in a day. And Hannah, what's to you the most valuable part of what you guys do in this program?
And just getting these clients to understand that they are valuable. They bring so much to the table, even though through active addiction, they may think very little of themselves, but they're still human beings that matter to people in their lives. They matter to us here at Centerstone. We really care, and we love to see when, even if they leave our programs, that they're still doing well and that they're able to maintain sobriety, or, God forbid, if they have a relapse, they know they can come back to Centerstone and, come back to their recovery family. It's always a nice thing to kind of establish that rapport with somebody, to let them know, like, you're always welcome here and we will always help you.
100%. And as we're having this conversation with Hannah Jones and Centerstone, our substance use segments, and, I want to highlight really quickly before I ask you another question, Hannah, is recoverwithus.org, recoverwithus.org, because that's the website that will give you all this valuable information. And Hannah, my thought process is by doing these, and when I started working with Dallas at the time, and now just with you guys in general, it's information you need to know before you need to know it, because I could only imagine being in crisis and having, all of the turmoil that could come with, making that decision. It's time to seek help. It's hard to really take a moment and a breath to look up all this information, and that's why I always value our conversations here. And Hannah, I wanted to ask you more about the supporters of the individual that's going through your program, because I'm sure, at this point in time, if, they had any, issues because of their addictions or because of their circumstance, that they might have had a few relationships, maybe hit a hiatus. And now that, we're starting to think a little bit clearly, now that we're getting some good help, do those relationships maybe start to come back at this point? Is that when they start reaching out again? What's that look like in the terms of the supporters or the family members of that individual?
Yeah, so I think that really takes clients a little off guard sometimes, of how quickly those relationships can be repaired when they're not just like telling their families that they're doing better, but they're showing them through their actions. I mean, we've seen families come back together. We've seen moms start talking to the kids again. We've seen parents that are now very willing to help them get back on their feet versus having totally cut them off when they were in active addiction. So those relationships do come back. And honestly, in recovery, those relationships are usually 1,000 times stronger than they ever were.
That's what I was wondering too, because I could only imagine when that that rehashing or that, come together moment happens, how strong that bond is. And I mean, even witnessing it, I couldn't do what you do because I'd start crying like a baby every time. I mean, that's just, I mean, I really would, because those moments are really why I think what you guys do is so invaluable, because through all of it, I think we forget sometimes the personal relationships and maybe just relationships in general that were burned because of the issues that someone was going through. And one thing I always like to point out, Hannah, and I hit on it a little bit earlier, is that this can happen to anybody. And how long have you been at Centerstone, if you don't mind me asking?
I was hired in May of 2023.
Oh, wow. So we're getting ready to hit a year.
Yeah, almost.
In your year, take me through just that year with Centerstone and what sets them apart. What sets Centerstone apart from other organizations that might be doing the same thing? Because all of them are valuable, but I think what you guys do is just a step ahead of everyone else.
I, as like an employee, I'll speak on both levels, but as an employee, one thing I've truly enjoyed at Centerstone is that we have this culture of coaching. So anybody can offer constructive criticism on what you're doing just to make you better. And I think as a company, that's a fantastic thing to offer for your employees. But just the way that, we reach out to anybody, whether they be in like a medically assisted treatment program, whether they have, co-occurring disorders, we make ourselves available, and we have a wide array of services, and we're pretty spread out. Like, we have several locations. So I think that in general, like us being so widespread and having multiple access points makes it a lot easier for people to make that decision to come into treatment versus, if it's a facility that only has one location, it might be harder for that person to access that care.
100%. And Hannah, as we have been talking, just getting back to the treatment program, because I want to focus on that in these 3 to 6 months. We talked a little bit about and overviewed what the program does, but if we could go more in depth, take me through just how it breaks down. Does it start off in baby steps, when somebody starts with you guys in that first couple of weeks, and then does it progress, or is all of that, is all the opportunity given on day one?
No, we actually do have like a phase kind of set up.
Okay.
So when everybody comes in, they're in kind of like a probationary phase. So for the first 2 weeks, they're restricted to only going out for like medically necessary appointments, just so that they can, get used to a new environment, get used to going to groups, just get used to having a little bit more freedom than they were probably used to in like a 28-day program. But then, after that, like 2 weeks, they're able to like start going out into the community, start looking for work. They're able to start going out on like passes with family or to meetings or anything like that out in the community. So, with anything, again, like we've mentioned before, they've kind of burned some bridges and, they've made some bad choices in the past. So we restrict that just to make them kind of, for lack of a better way to say it, earn a little bit of trust back, and prove that they are able to withstand that temptation and those triggers that are in the community. But yeah, then they are able to earn other privileges, like towards the end of their stay, they can earn like overnight passes or just additional, like more time out of the building to be spent with family, friends, or whoever is their support system.
That's a great point. And it's something that I wouldn't even think about, just talking with you. How important is that earning mentality? Because, just by hearing you talk, you're right. If you go, all right, great, here you go. What's that really instill? What values are being learned there? What skills? To you, is that a type of incentive? Because that's what I consider as an incentive. We do great. Here's what we get. How important is that for the long-term care of that individual, not just the short term, but for years to come?
I think it's incredibly important because a lot of people in recovery get very frustrated when they can't see tangible successes. And I think by letting them know, like, because I usually pull people into my office and I'll be like, hey, you're about ready to phase up. Like, you've been doing really well. You're going to get these extra privileges. They get really excited because a lot of them are seeking that validation of knowing that they're doing well and that somebody else sees that they're doing well. So it's always just really nice, whoever we are, it's a people thing. We want to know when people see that we're doing the right thing and that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and, you know, to get rewarded for that. So it's very important, I think, for the program and for that person's longevity and sobriety.
100%. And Hannah, what's the best way for folks to learn more about the program and ways that, you know, they can see that information just in case they ever need it or if they need it currently?
So Centerstone's website has all of our referral process. It has my referral worksheet that asks questions about your kind of like your background and things. So if you fill that out online, it does come to me, or you can give us a call at Centerstone. They'll direct you over to extended care and we can take care of you there as well.
Is that the 1-877-HOPE-123 number, Hannah?
Correct. Yes.
And then Recover With Us, is that correct website for this service as well?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure. And Hannah, I think this was one of my most engaging conversations. I really appreciated your time. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before I say goodbye for now?
I don't necessarily think so. I just thank you for the opportunity to share about my program. I hope it reaches somebody that needs it. And I just want everybody to know that our doors are open, and if we can help, we will.
Absolutely, and we will direct everyone when we do the write-up on this conversation on how to reach out. And Hannah, thank you so much for what you do, because I mean, just such a great program, so invaluable, and I really appreciate your time this morning.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a quick pause here at 9:46. We'll come back and we'll wrap up the 9 o'clock that was right here on RiverBender.com.